So you can look at the confederation. The Anus led by the Kavi Chayamana, the Purus led by Samvarana Bharata, and their allies, Paktas, Phalanas, Shivas, then Parshus, then Alina and Simyu and Vishanins. So these many number of people were together, and that's a 10 confederation that has formed. Among this, the Alina becomes their ancestor to the Alans or the Hellenes, that is the Greek. So these people are the ancestors of the Greeks, later day Greeks. After 1,000 years, they migrated by 1,000 years, 1,000 or 2,000 years gap. This is around 3,200 BC. And Greek literature, Greek Itihasas, Iliad, Odyssey start by around 1,500 to 1,000 BC. So after 1,500 BC, these Alinas migrated westwards along Turkey and then settled in Greece, and they formed the great Greek civilization. They formed their own Itihasas like Iliad and Odyssey, and they also mentioned Danans because Agamemnon and Achilles, the great Greek heroes who participated in the Battle of Troy, they consider themselves belonging to the Danan lineage, that is the Danava lineage. So they are basically, so again, here also our terminology is Anavas in the Ṛgveda, and in the Mahabharata and Ramayana and in the Puranas, we call them as Danavas or as Daityas. In their own text, that is Iliad and Odyssey, they call themselves as Danans. So everything is matching up. So none of these are fiction. They're all part of history. And the Simyus became Albanians. Just like the Greeks migrated, the Simyus migrated along with them, become Albanians. And the Brgus here, some of them went along with the Alinas and Simyus, or went westwards. They are the Phrygians. The Phrygian and then Irishmen, all these people emerged from these Brgus. And of course, we know some part of the Brgus after the battle with Sudas, or during the period of his descendants like Sahadeva and Somaga, they decided to go along with the victorious Sudas. So they started living in Bharata and Bharatavarsha, and then started slowly affiliated into the Bharata culture. So they are the Bhargavas. And initially it was very rough. Their adaptation to Bharatiya culture was very much rough because, that is why you have a conflict between this Bhargava, Parashurama, and the Kshatriya kings who were ruling in Kurukshetra as well as in the Narmada river. So this is because they were very slowly assimilated in the Bharatiya culture. Initially, a lot of hostilities. There was a conflict of who is the dominant and who is less dominant. The Kshatriyas lineages, Yadava lineages, or the Bhargava lineages. So there was conflict of interest, and that is resulted into the conflict of Parashurama. There is a late Ṛgvedic Parashurama with the Kartavirya Arjuna Yadava lineage king in the Narmada region. During the contemporary to the rise of Ravana, just before the rise of Ravana and the Narmada mouth, the Lanka region, all these things happened. So Kartavirya Arjuna was the dominant king of the region, and because of conflict with Parashurama, that is Bharga Rama of Jamadagni's son, there was a conflict that killed Jamadagni. All these things happened, and then finally Kartavirya Arjuna was killed. Or there are two versions. In the Mahabharata, Kartavirya Arjuna is already defeated. In the Ramayana version, the Kartavirya Arjuna is killed. So all these things happened. So that entire assimilation of the Bhargavas into the Bharatiya tradition was very rough. And slowly they got assimilated, and they are represented as Shukracharya in the Puranas. Like that, it happened like that. And of course, the outcome is very clear because many times I have mentioned that the outcome is the Sudas become victorious. And he credits Indra, he or Vasishta credits Indra for the victory. As per Vasishta, Indra changed the course of the water in the Parushni river because Indra is very much associated with all the rivers. He releases them from Urtra, that is frost. So the rivers obey Indra. That is the poetic narrative. So the Indra, because Sudas is a worshipper of Indra. So whenever battle take place, there was an unexpected event happened that the water flow reduced. The water in this Parushni river reduced. So the enemy started moving forward. So all the enemies were in the middle of the water. Then suddenly a flood occurred in the river. And because in that flood, almost 90% of the kings, all the warriors got killed in the flood itself. And Sudas killed the remaining 10%. And that is why, because of a very pure chance, even Sudas become victorious. But it can also be a kind of a military strategy. So the whatever action credited to Indra, maybe Sudas or Vasishta or some of the commander of Sudas have done by creating some barrier, like some temporary dam on in the river, and giving the impression to the enemies to just get inside the river. So this large number of enemies started getting inside the river. Suddenly, that dam is opened, and the water came, and everybody was destroyed. And the odds of Sudas winning this battle was very less, 1:100, because the numerics that is mentioned in the Srajana battle is that the enemy contains more than 10 times the total total soldiers in the army of Sudas. So it is a 1:10 army. So compared to the Kurukshetra, where it is a 7:11, 7 Akshauhini for Pandavas and 11 Akshauhini for the Kauravas. But here it is it's something like 1 unit of 1 unit of military power for Sudas, and 10 times more for in the enemy side. But still, the enemy got defeated. That is why this particular historical event got this much amazement. Like Vasishta is recording all these things into Suktas. So seventh mandala, 18th hymn, number 18 again is very important here. 18, and we know that 18 Kurukshetra war, there are the 18 days it fought, and there are 18 parvas in the Kurukshetra war. I mean, in the Mahabharata, and you see the 18th hymn of the seventh mandala describes the Dasharajana battle. It's not a real coincidence, but so this, because there is a kind of a synchrony, how the Ṛgvedic suktas are arranged. There is some kind of a principle they are following. So 18 typically represent for the most important event. So it is described the most important event in the Rig Veda. So 7th mandala, 18th sukta is talking about the Dasharajana battle. There are, it passingly referred in some other suktas like the 34 sukta, etc. But a major event described in the 18th sukta of the this 7th mandala. That is one of the early Rig. So early Rig mandalas are 6, 3, and 7. So 7th is the last of the early Rig mandalas, and it is the last stage of the early Rig period, and when Sudas was ruling it. So that is the main thing. And as I mentioned, this entire event resulted into migrations. So Alinas became the Greeks, Simyus became the Albanians. Vishanas basically are the Kashmiri ethnicity. So they migrated to the Kashmir. I mean, or they came from Kashmir to fight this battle and return back to their own native kingdom in the Kashmir region. And Paktas, yeah, anybody will be knowing it. They are the Pakhtuns, the Talibanis. Now they lost their their ancient tradition, everything, and then believing in some alien religion, and destroying themselves. The Paktas, they were a Ṛgvedic tribe. They are cultivating poppy, opium, everything, and destroying their children, destroying their women folk, not allowing them to read, study, everything. So, but they were surprisingly, they were a Ṛgvedic tribe, and you see how much, if you lose the culture, if you lose the Veda, how much you will be uh, like degraded. That is example is the Paktas. And Bhalanas are the Baluchistan people, and the Shiva tribe is actually again represented in again they were mentioned as Shivi, and like that in the Mahabharata and Ramayana. Even Yudhishthira's one of the wife was a Shivi princess, and like that. So they are well integrated into the Aitihasic period. So you get out of this the Alinas, Simyus, and Bhrigus, a branch of the Bhrigus. They are the primary, like you can say, they are the most dominant Western tribes. Earlier they were here, and their descendants went to the West and established Greek and Albanian civilizations. The Bhrigus become Phrygians, and later Irishmen, etc. And of course, others like these Kashmiris and the Pakhtuns went to Afghanistan and some Western Pakistan region. Bhalanas into Balochistan area. And Shivas, they become part of some regions. Like in the northern side, there is a north of Gandhara. There they have a settlement. Then again south, along with the Sindhu Savira, and there is a Shivi settlement ruled by Jayadratha. And the other Shivis were in the Multa and Molastan region. And Yudhishthira's wife was from that Multani Shivis, Molastani Shivis actually. Devika, I think the name. So all these things. And then there is one more part where maybe I will be like a very interesting other part. So Dasarjana battle is the main thing about the Parishni River. And there are some other interesting parts like it is this Parishni River. I think in the last talk I mentioned is a favorite river of Indra. So all the rivers, especially the snow-fed rivers in the Ṛgvedic region, they are all affiliated to Indra in the sense that Indra is the releaser of the rivers. All the rivers pay gratitude to Indra as the releaser of the river. Who Indra released them from the bondage of Vritra, or in a climatological sense, these rivers were released from the bondage of glaciers and ice in the that obstructing their flow. So the poet always mentioned that all the rivers are indebted to the Indra, but Indra have a favorite river, that is the Parishni river. So we see that in the middle, somebody in the middle Ṛgvedic poet, he says Indra clothes himself in with the tufts of wool in the Parishni. So what it means is that Indra baths in the river Parishni, and also it has hint that Indra have a woolen clothes, etc. So if anybody interested in what is the ethnicity of Indra, etc., like this gives an indirect hint that Indra is somehow some kind of a blend of Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh, the border region of Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh. If there is a historical Indra, then he should be somewhere in the border of Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh, and a mountain person. And since when I say he's a mountain person, he has a like very much similarity with Shiva, who is another mountain person, because he lives in Kailasa, and the one of the highest mountains in that Kailas range to the north of the Himalayan range. And again, Indra also have a mountainous ancestry, and he actually baths in the Parushni river. And then Maruts, very interesting. Maruts are always follow the footsteps of Indra. Maruts are the kind of if Indra is a young leader, Marut are the fellow friends of Indra. Assume Indra is something like a 24-year-old leader, and the Maruts will be something of the same age, companions of Indra. And there is a lady named Rodasi who also follow Maruts and Indra. So that is a company that we have. We see a leader and a group of companions for the leader, and a lady named Rodasi. She's a goddess. So Rodasi also go along with Maruts. That is a company that roam around Ṛgvedic heartland, and they are worshipped as gods and goddesses in the Ṛgvedic period. So as just like in the middle Ṛgvedic fourth mandala, 22nd sutta, says Indra clothes himself with the tufts of wool in Parishni. Same sutta, same kind of situation for Maruts. Marut clothes themselves with tufts of wool in Parishni river. That is mentioned in the fifth mandala. Both of them are the middle Ṛgvedic mandalas. So the Ṛgvedic poets in the middle Ṛgvedic period, created the narratives like this for both Indra and Marut. Their river, favorite river is Parushni river, like that. And of course, in the Nadi Sukta, where the location, where is the river is mentioned, Parushni river. So we have this sukta, like this 10th mandala Nadi Sukta. We have this Imam me Gange Yamune Saraswati Sudutri Stomam Sajata Parishniya Asiknya Marutvate Vidastar Jigiya Shunya Sushomaya. So in that list, if you look at Ganga is mentioned, the easternmost river, Yamuna is mentioned, Saraswati is mentioned. So, and then Sududri is mentioned. And the next, the Parushni is mentioned. So that correct sequence. Vipas is considered as a tributary of Sududri, so it is not mentioned here. So you have the correct sequence in which the rivers are mentioned. and Parushni comes after, Ganga, in the east to west direction. Parushni comes after Ganga, Yamuna, and then this Saraswati, Sududri, and then Parushni comes. And the next river, Asikni, is mentioned next, Asikni. And Marudvrata is mentioned here. Marudvrata is there. And then Vitasta is mentioned, Vitasta. And of course, Arjigiya is mentioned, so it's a little bit far away here. Arjigiya will be there. And Sushoma also is mentioned after that. So there was certain, that I will talk in the subsequent chapters, where Arjigiya and Sushoma had independence, and later they merged together. All these dynamics I will mention later. So this is all about Parishni River. So the primary importance of it being the central arena of the Dasharajana battle, which is also known as the Battle of Parishni, which was a very much decisive political event happened, and this is the most important political event happened in the Ṛgveda, which turned the history of Bharatavarsha into a very distinctive direction. Because in this particular battle, the Sudas basically represent the later Panchala kings. He has got the biggest dominance of King Sudas, and some of his challengers, that is the ancestor of the Pandavas and Kauravas, were defeated and pushed to the northwestern, made to flee to the northwestern region, along with the Anava king Kavichayamana. And this entire thing is reflected. It's not a single event only mentioned in the Ṛgveda. It is having its imprint in the Mahabharata also. And if you look at in the Adi Parva, you see a Paurava king, that is Samvarana Bharata, is defeated by the Panchalas. That is mentioned in the Mahabharata also. The Samvarana, who is also known as Paurava, because some kind of title he is given, because everybody is Paurava, even Sudas is also Paurava. But because of some reasons, like the rishis can affiliate with any king, right? So there is a conflict of interest between Sudas and Samvarana. Some rishis will support Samvarana, other rishis will support Sudas for the dominance in the Varaprithivya or Kurukshetra, I mean later Kurukshetra, but in that time Varaprithivya region. So they will give the title Paurava to anybody affiliated with Samvarana will give the title of Paurava to Samvarana. And they will vote for Samvarana being the emperor. But some other rishis will support Sudas. And Vasishta happened to be supporting Sudas at that time. And there was a conflict of interest, conflict. So finally, because Samvarana was a little bit weaker king, he got defeated and then made to flee. So that is mentioned in the Mahabharata. And same thing we can detect from the Ṛgveda, because in the Dasharajana battle, there is a Puru king. And this Puru king is if you look at thousands of books about Ṛgveda from Western scholars, they are all confused about it. Because see, their mind, it is completely a west to east migration. And then suddenly a Puru king is part of a west to east migration. So they are completely confused, and they completely puzzled, and it is considered as a riddle. And I am solving that riddle in the book Rivers of Ṛgveda, saying that this Puru is basically not coming from west, because the Westerners say the Puru is coming from west, from Central Asia and Afghanistan, etc. So entire this Pandavas came from west, etc. That completely absurd and nonsense. Because in the Mahabharata there is a footprint of the same events, wherein it is very clear that the Samvarana was actually in the Kurukshetra region. Because Mahabharata always use the term Kurukshetra, whereas Ṛgveda it is Varaprithivya. So in the Varaprithivya region, there was a conflict of Samvarana with the Panchalas. So that is a Mahabharata term I'm using. But in case of Ṛgveda, that is a conflict between the Puru and Sudas. Because in the Ṛgveda, they are called the Puru and Sudas. They are the two terminology they use. And Sudas represent the Panchalas and the Puru represent the Samvarana Bharata. The two branches of the Bharata dynasty. I mean, total there are three branches, but the Kushikas were staying away from it. The third branch is staying away from the conflict. The two other branches, the Panchala branch and the Pandava branch, Kuru Pandava branch, that is represented by Sudas, the Tritsu king through Sudas, and the Samvarana Bharata king, that is Samvarana, Aksha, ancestor of the Pandava. They have a conflict. And because of conflict, he was expelled into the Parushni region, Parushni, to the west of Parushni. This is my boundary, you go out of it. So he went outside. And this Samarana Bharata went further westward, and in Asikni he defeated some tribes there and then established there. That time he was having this alliance with the Anava king Kavi Chayamana, who was also in a similar condition, expelled from the Varaprithvi region. All of them allied together to prevent the expansion of Sudas further, and got all the other 8 other tribes to support them, but finally got defeated, and then again fled westwards. And Sambarana finally settled in the Sarayu, that is western Sarayu, that is a tributary of Sindhu. So in the Sindhu Sarayu region, slightly to the northwest of whatever in the map, he settled there. And at that time, because the Vasishtha is observing all of this, because I think he changed his mind, because maybe he thought that Dharma is on the side of Sambarana Bharata, or because he got a kind of a conflict with Suda's son. That also I mentioned. It is also reflected in the Mahabharata that he like the Suda's son disrespected Vasishtha's son Shakti, either killed or simply respected, because we don't, diverse variations are there. In one instance, Suda's son killed Vasishtha's son. In another version, he just didn't respect Shakti. So whatever is there, there is a conflict between Suda's, the king lineage, and the priest lineage, Vasishtha, the priest lineage. Naturally, Vasishtha become distanced from the Suda's lineage, and then naturally he will support the enemies of Sudha. So he went along with Samvarana, and then again this is reflected in Mahabharata that Vasishtha came and met Samvarana, and then Samvarana wanted to marry the Tapati, the Surya daughter of Surya, which is indicating an Ikshvaku princess, because Ikshvakus are Suryavamshis. And Samvarana was living at that time along with the Trikshi Ikshvaku lineage, that is Western Ikshvaku lineage. So natural that he may get he may be infatuated with some princess, Ikshvaku princess, that is Trikshi princess. And he got some that Vasishtha will be mediating between the Western Ikshvakus and the Samvarana, and then supporting this marriage alliance. Even otherwise, there are Ṛgvedic verses that Prasadasya and other Western Ikshvaku kings were great supporter of this Purus, that is the Samvarana Bharatas. So when they were living together, Prasadasya were more or less like how the Drishtadyumna was supporting the Pandavas. Prasadasya was a great supporter. They together fought many enemies and made them flee westwards. Like some of the ancestors of Westerners were defeated by the combined alliance of Samvarana and the Trasadasya. So Trasadasya become a great supporter, and naturally maybe this Tapati Vaivaswati, who the Samvarana married, could be some relative of Trasadasya, so some Ikshvaku, Western Ikshvaku princess. And Vasishtha is a person who forged that alliance between the Samvarana Bharata and this Western Ikshvaku Trikshi lineage. And the result of that alliance is the Kuru lineage. So even here in the Mahabharata, poet mentioned Kuru as a direct son of Samvarana, but he also mentioned that after 1,000 years, that after the marriage of Samvarana and Tapati, 1,000 years elapsed, and then Kuru migrated to this Varaprithvi and changed the name to Kurukshetra, and the southern region to Kurujangala. So there is a 1,000-year different gap between Samvarana and Kuru, but it is only in the poetic data you have to extract and filter it out, then only you get this particular information. But so in whatever chronology I have suggested, around 3200 BC, the Samvarana and Sudas lived. After 1,000 years, then around 2200 BC to 2000 period, Kuru lived. And subsequently, a few years, few of the generations later, Pradhiba, Shantanu, everybody emerged in 1940 BC. So Rama and Shantanu contemporary. And you have Kurukshetra war at 1793 BC. Everything matching up. Right from the period of Sudas and Samvarana Bharata Dacharajana battle, 3200 BC, and Kurukshetra war in 1793 BC. So I think I'll stop here. I mean, a little bit expanded the narrative because it's a very important event, which is captured both in the Ṛgveda and the Mahabharata. So we'll go for questions.